signed in the dot loop is because I just wanted to pull up a form. Oh, here, okay. So I just wanted to pull up the contract. So the earlier class, it was talking about buyer consultations and working with buyers.
Yes.
Okay. And so once you got, now, not everyone is a proponent of buyer agency agreements, but remember what I told you, the day you get burned, not get your commission, would be the day you will always use a buyer agency.
So can I ask what you use as far as how you present it to your client and when? Is it the first showing? Is it?
So you have to decide what's your process. Is your process, I don't show until we have a consultation, or I'll meet you at the first property that you want to see, and then we're going to have a consultation there. So that's me, because when someone calls and I don't have, it's a cold call, I don't have a relationship with you, you don't know me, I don't know you. And some stuff that we need to talk about might be uncomfortable, and that's talking about their finance, right? But once we meet and see the property, then we can have that conversation and talk about working with a lender, getting them to a lender, and then talk about that buyer agency agreement. You know, this is the contract that you're hiring me to find you a home. And also we talk about the commission. You know, my minimum is 3%. But if the seller's not paying the 3%, you will make up the difference. You know,
I hadn't heard that part of it before.
yeah, that's what the
take what we get.
No, you have to understand and know your worth. And I'm worth 3%. That's just me.
I'm new, so I'll just start. I'll start at the bottom.
You're worth 3%. My minimum is 37.50. So if I'm not making a 3% or 37.50, you will make up the difference, and that's paid at closing. Now,
Wow.
I will tell you this: if the buyer paying you commission will hurt their deal because they don't have it, they're barely making closing costs, then I won't force the issue. I'll take the 2.5. But if you're in a position to be able to pay me my money, I want my money.
Okay.
You know, and so that's what that buyer agency allows you.
So do you bring a paper copy with you, or do you send
No,
it?
I send it to them electronically. And I send it separate, right? So I don't send the buyer agency and the sales contract, the disclosures, because the sales contract, the disclosures, I'm sending that on to the listing agent, because this is my offer, right? I use DocuSign. So that listing agent doesn't need to see my buyer agency. So I send those in 2 separate envelopes out of DocuSign.
Okay.
And I mean, you need to have that conversation because buyers didn't take pre-license class, right? So they don't know that you can show them other houses. They might think you can only show them Keller property. So you have to educate them as to what you can do for them. I can show you any listing by any company. If you see a for sale by owner, I can get you in there and help negotiate that. They need to know what you can do for them. Having that consultation. And you can do a consultation by Zoom. It doesn't have to even be in person.
Okay.
You know, if somebody's reached out to you and they want to go see a house, then do a Zoom, share your screen, and go through the buyer agency agreement. And then as soon as you're finished with the Zoom, send it over to get signed. Because then they're hiring. All right. Now, so part of the things that you're going to sign when you look at the listing, because it's gonna say what things are included, what appliances are included. Might be in some marketing descriptions that they're including a washer and a dryer, or maybe, and the only thing is, if they are being financed, only put not electronic, appliances on this addendum E that you're sending to the lender. Like, I just closed a buyer at 9 o'clock, and the seller left. She asked, do your buyers want the living room furniture and the piano? Well, I asked them, they said yes. So we didn't do an addendum E for that, because that was after we were under contract. But had she said she was leaving, that would have needed to be a separate addendum E, because furniture can't go to the lender. Only the appliances can go to the lender.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all
If you put furniture on there, that lender is going to send that addendum E back and ask you to remove the furniture.
Okay.
Because they send the addendum E to the appraiser. And so, so if they're leaving something other than appliances, and that's including a washer and a dryer, then do 2 addendum E's. One with the appliances, and then one with the other items they're leaving. All of them still get a value of 0, but only the appliance one goes to the lender with your sales contract.
Okay.
All right, so addendum E is the personal property addendum. It'll be the date of the contract, property address between the sellers and the buyers, and then you just put the item. What I do is I just take and I copy all the appliances that's on that line. I copy and I paste it on one line, and I put 0. Some people separate, you don't have to separate it out.
Okay.
Because it's all a value of 0. So everything on that line, as long as it fits in here, is 0. Now, if it's a lot, I'll separate and put it on 2 lines. But I'm not doing refrigerator, washer, garbage, no.
Yeah.
It's just, all it's saying is this stuff right here has a value of 0. And it's included in the sale. And then, so the seller warrants that the seller owns these items of personal property and will convey ownership at the time of the sale. The seller is saying, I own everything that's in this home, this personal property, stove, refrigerator, garbage disposal, dishwasher, microwave, and I'm conveying ownership when we close. And then the buyer signs and the seller signs, and that's your addendum E. So that's part of your contract package is addendum E. All right. The other part of your contract will be, have you done the residential well, let me so then every home in Illinois will have the radar disclosure. Because that's required. And so based on what because the seller will initiate this document. So this will be in the disclosures that's attached to the MLS. So the seller will initiate this, and you just have to look at what did they initial. And if the seller either had no knowledge and no records, then down here, make sure if you're saying the purchaser has received copies of all but so this is the thing. Most people just go ahead and initial E and F, but if you're on the listing side and it says seller has no knowledge and has no records, there will be some people that will send over the contract and E will not be initial. Because what does E say? Purchaser has received copies of all information listed above. Well, if I have no information from above, how did you receive? Right? And so then purchaser has received the IEMA radon disclosure pamphlet. So do you send your radon pamphlet with your stuff that you send over to your buyer?
The buyer agency agreement?
No, not the buyer agency agreement. When you're doing the contract, are you providing them with the electronic pamphlet for radon? Okay. And then you buyer sign. So this is radon, but this would have been a part of the disclosures that attach to the MLS.
Okay.
So this will always be in your packet. And then what is this? Why is it's a, where's our forms? Maybe I need to put them in. More. And the dot loop because I didn't want to figure out how to get into my DocuSign. We'll just go here first. Contract to purchase real estate. Okay, you got your contract?
Right here.
All right. So you're gonna put the date that you're writing the offer. You'll go, so when you pull up the MLS sheet, if you click on the parcel ID number, it should open up Real List. That's the county record.
Okay.
Okay, in the county, really? You didn't know?
I didn't know you could click on it in the
Yeah,
MLS.
click on the part, because it's hyper, it's blue, it's colored, right?
Okay, yeah.
So click on the parcel ID number and it will open up Real List. So it'll have the owner's name, it'll have the county record information.
Okay.
And so in that legal description, just copy and paste. I copy and paste everything when I'm doing the offer. I have the MLS up and then I click on the parcel ID and I have Real List up. And so I'm just copying and pasting. All
I
right.
thought I had to go in the parcel search for that county. That's what I've been doing.
No, you just click on Real List.
Okay,
I mean, click on the
Good short-
parcel ID number and Real List pops up.
good shortcut. Got it.
Yeah. So the date, the legal description, and then I'll copy the parcel ID number off of there, put it in here, and then I might type Madison County or St. Clair County.
Mhm.
And then commonly known as, now, do you use DocuSign or Document?
I'll do.
Do you?
Hmm.
But
I'm
yeah,
trying to get them to use DocuSign, but they're like, well, we're already invested in this, so.
it's so
They
much
hate change.
easier because the thing I love about DocuSign is once all parties have signed, excuse me, everybody gets the copy. You don't have to
Automatic.
go back. It's automatic. You don't have to go back. Make sure you send them their signed copies. They get it.
24 hours.
Right.
Huh.
That's one less step. But anyway, so then commonly known as the actual city address goes here. And then on line number 8, with an approximate lot size of, so then go back to the listing in the MLS and whatever is 0.146 acres or whatever that acres is in the MLS, copy and paste, put that there. And then it's not a mobile home, so NA, NA, and NA.
Okay.
All right, and then if you're not doing, you know how I feel about dual agency, but if it's your Rainmakers listing, that's dual agency. Remember that, okay? Then purchase price goes here on line 24. And then earnest money goes the second box. And then delivered within. I always do 3 days, you know, because that gives them time to get it there. But you want to, now, the thing is, if they say they need 5 days, order inspections until that earnest money is deposited.
Okay.
So that you don't have that issue of something came up on inspections and now they want out and they haven't deposited the earnest money. But what if it wasn't structural or environmental? Because those are the only 2 things where in our contract, we say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if it's structural or environmental and they want to back out of the contract, you will release their earnest money. Well, what if it's not structural or environmental and they haven't deposited the earnest money and now they want to terminate? So now it's like, ooh, you know, so I highly recommend no inspections are scheduled until that earnest money. That's your protection. Yep. Don't schedule inspections until that earnest money. If they want inspections done right away, then do a 2 or 3 days if they need to deposit that earnest money.
What is that, trust funding or whatever?
Trust funds.
That-
Now, not all title companies use trust funds, but those who do, it is really so much easier. Because they just go in there, they put in their, they log in, create an account, they put their account number in there, and it's automatic ACH from their bank account to trust fund.
Sounds easy.
So then if the listing agent did not put in agent remarks what title companies are using, or they didn't send over the information sheet that has what title company they're using, please don't put TBD. Send a text to the agent and ask what title company are you using.
Okay.
All right. So line number 26 gets the title company's name. Okay. Then home warranty, you ask your buyer, do they want a home warranty? Or if the seller is already offering one, you would put that information. If you're trying to be competitive because you think it's gonna be multiple offer situations, talk to the buyer about paying for their own home warranty instead of asking the seller to pay. Because the bottom line is, the seller is gonna go with the best offer that's gonna net them the most money. And so if the buyer is in a position to be able to pay for their own home warranty, allow them to pay for their own home warranty. Those little things might beat out another offer. Okay. Also, do some research on the different home warranties. You can create a list and send over to your buyer. I would recommend create a list and have their, I would do it in Word. Create the list and put the website next to it. That way, or email it over and put the website. Because then they can just click on it and read about the different home warranties. To let them, choose which home warranty, or you can say, these are the 3 I work with or have used or my clients have used, because we're supposed to give them a choice. We're not supposed to just say, here, use this.
So can they buy the home warranty? If they waive it now, can they buy it after?
They can, if they waive it now and then decide doing the transaction, I think I want it, then they can go in and buy it themselves. They can buy it after. Most people are gonna have a 30-day wait that they could file a claim. But I would recommend doing it right after close. But if they want to waive it, then you're gonna click waive and by buyer or provided by buyer. Now, the other thing is make sure, because title companies are so used to home warranties being provided by the seller, that sometimes they don't read contracts very well either, and they'll have the home warranty on the seller side, and it shouldn't be, it should be on the buyer side, because, you know, you have to call them and say, hey, the buyer's paying for this home.
Okay.
All right. And I say that because a lot of agents don't read their settlement statements. And so the listing agent might miss it. And then a month later, the seller's sitting down, looking over their stuff and say, I paid for that home warranty and I shouldn't have. And then they're gonna come back trying to get that money, right? And then the buyer's like, I don't have any extra money right now. So our job is to look over the settlement statement and make sure they're correctly done.
Okay.
All right. And then remember we talked about all the inclusions, what's all included. But let's say the seller wants to leave a washer and dryer and the buyer says, I have a new one, I don't want it. Put that on here. We don't want the washer and dryer so that they can take it with them. All right. Because a lot of times people decide they're gonna leave stuff because they just don't want to move it.
And then it's out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
So as long as you have on the front page all that information about the address and the date, it should follow. And then you want to, now the thing about closing, when are we gonna close, on or before? Depending on the type of loan, make sure you're talking to the lender. Can we do a 30-day close? You know, in the summer, it's gonna get really busy and 30-day closes might be tight. So they might say, give me 40 days, you know. So talk to the lender on, you know, especially if the buyer or the seller wants to close shorter than 30 days, make sure your lender can do it.
Okay.
All
So
right.
that's your first thing. Is
That
to
would
check
be,
with
yeah.
them.
Yeah. And then sometimes now you got to really be paying attention because sometimes it might say seller can't close before July 1st, you know, and so then you want to honor that.
I have a new build right now that's my closed contract or my accepted contract, and it's 90 days or
Yeah.
sooner. So
Yep. And so this isn't they got to break ground. This is they're already doing it.
right, it's already in the works.
Okay.
And
But look for it, depending on weather or whatever, or delays,
right.
look for possible delays.
Yeah.
Now, when you get the pre-qualification or pre-approval letter, if you don't know if it's a conventional or FHA, if it doesn't tell you 3.5% or 3% or 5% down, please call the lender or text the lender and find out. Because what you're saying here in section 9, line 62 is that the loan amount is going to be 96.5 if it's a FHA and it's 3.5% down. So the LTV, loan to value, is 96.5, right? With an annual interest rate not greater than, communicate with the lender because you don't want to put on there not greater than 6.5, and right now interest rates are hovering in the 7s.
Okay.
Because you have just really canceled this contract before you even wrote it, right? So and then amortized. So usually it's 30 years over 30 years, but again, if your buyer doesn't know, hey, are you getting a 30-year loan? Some buyers will say, hey, I'm only getting a 15-year loan. Then it would be 15 years amortized over 15 years. All right. So that's what goes on line 63. If it is still a hot market like it is right now, remember the seller is trying to net the most money. To be a competitive offer where multiple offers are in play, sellers don't have to tell the buyers, we can't ask for any closing costs if you really want to be competitive, or you're gonna have to offer a lot more. All right, but let's say it's a neutral market, then seller agrees to pay up to, could be $3,000 in closing costs. You can go as high as 6% of the sales price in closing costs. Very rarely though, do people do 6%. My average is about 3,000. I mean, not 3,000, 3%. Yeah. If you need 6% closing costs and a grant, you shouldn't be buying a house, because that means you haven't saved a dime. That's my opinion. All right. If you have the pre-qual letter, and that's why you want to really emphasize to the buyers that they have to get pre-qual or pre-approved to submit an offer, because it's such a competitive market right now. In a normal market, maybe it's a Saturday and you can't get the letter until Monday. Then you would check shall be submitted by, and you put the date. The thing is, on that date, you better submit this pre-qual letter, because
Andrea, that just came. It says you're signed out.
what's on that?
Over there, it says you're signed out, not on this one. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna text her real quick. Is this class till noon? No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm making notes.
All right. So whatever date you say you're gonna have that pre-qual letter to that listing agent, you want to make sure you have it there, because especially if it's multiple offers and you say you're gonna have it there on the 12th and the 13th comes up, now the seller is gonna say you didn't honor your contract. Your offer said we'll have a letter. So then now they could send you a termination saying, hey, you breached, you didn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be on us, right? As an
Okay.
agent?
Dates are important. Whatever dates you put in this contract, you have to honor. All right. And then the contingency. If it's more than 30 days from closing, let's say it's a 45-day closing, I make my contingency date 30 days. If it's a 30-day close, I do 25 days for contingent, for loan commitment, because you never know. I don't want to put a 20-day loan commitment and the buyer hasn't gotten everything in for the underwriter to do loan commitment. So I do as close to closing as possible for loan commitment. All right. Then down here at the bottom, line 95, you're going to tell what type of financing: conventional, FHA, USDA rule, VA, and are they getting a grant? And if they're getting a grant, put the type of grant they're getting. Is it IDA? Is it Genoa? Is it Madison County? Is it St. Clair County? All right. Then we go on to none of that, unless it's a cash deal. Then we do line 162, check cash. Now let me tell you this. If it's a cash deal, earnest money should be 10%.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you why. If somebody is buying a $680,000 home and they're saying it's cash, then their earnest money should be $68,000. Because if you do $1,000 earnest money on a $600,000 property, and I decide I want to walk away, that $1,000 is peanuts.
Right, exactly.
What's gonna keep them from trying to, stay in there?
Side came on and played music over there.
That's weird. I wonder if the remote clicked on something.
I don't know what.
Because there's a button on there for YouTube.
My foot wasn't in there, I don't think, but I don't know. It might have been.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't know.
Alicia walked by and next, I was like, whoop. But so that makes sense, right? That if I'm paying cash on $680,000, then I should have $68,000 available, right?
Yeah.
And if I decide I'm just gonna walk away from this deal, it's harder to walk away from 68,000. Right?
That makes sense.
And so the thing is, if you're the listing agent, you should be protecting the seller. And then if agent, you should be making sure they have cash
Yeah, you don't
to
want,
buy $680,000 property. And so earnest money, my opinion, should be 10%.
okay.
And even if it's 5%, $30,000, 34,000 is harder to walk away from than 1,000. I would never have my seller accept $1,000 earnest money on a $600,000 purchase. No.
Okay,
Okay, so I just want to put that little caveat in there for cash. And then the other thing is, like, when you're doing the offer and you're at home, again, I recommend do Zoom to go through the contract so that they can see what they're getting ready to sign. Because most people, when you send electronic over, they don't read it. They just click,
Right.
click, 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 and they're done, right? And then when it's time to get out of this contract, well, the contract says, well, I didn't see that because you didn't read it.
right, you signed it.
Yeah, you signed it, but you didn't read it. And so when we get to this page, page 10, I believe,
Okay,
is the addendums. So what addendums are going to be attached with this contract? So we're always gonna have residential property, that's addendum R.
okay,
If it was built before 78, you're gonna have lead-based paint. You're always gonna have radon in Illinois. And then you might have 648, where that's the square footage addendum that most companies have now, the square footage.
right,
And then if personal property is included, you're gonna have addendum E. If it's a tenant in that listing, you are going to have the lockbox authorization. Is not one of these choices, but that would be, so if the listing has a tenant, the tenant has to sign lockbox authorization, and you would check additional addendum and put that there.
okay.
All right.
Box authorization.
Yep, and that's if property has a tenant. All right, and then in special agreements. So let's say it's a competitive market, you're offering 5,000 over list price. What happens if it doesn't appraise? Does the buyer have the funds to continue with the deal?
Mhm.
So you need to let the seller know that, right?
Right,
So that's called an appraisal gap. Some people do an inspection gap where it's saying, what I did with my buyer is if repairs are under 1,500, we will not be asking for anything to be repaired. Now, I would say total. I had an agent tell one of our agents, well, it's 1,500 each item. No, because nothing could ever be asked for. Because GFI, but if there's this laundry list that I have somebody go out and give a bid for, and if it's $3,000, we're gonna ask you to either fix some of it or pay 1,500. So make sure you put in there 1,500 total. If the total repairs are under 1,500, but you have to talk to your buyer, because this is dependent on your buyer. But you're making recommendations for a strong offer. And so you say, if it's and you have to ask the buyer, what are you comfortable with of us not asking for anything? What monetary amount? Up to 1,500, up to 2,500, they might say, unless it's over 10,000, because the only thing that would be a sewer, the sewer's clogged or something like that. So that's a conversation you have to have because you want to make your offer competitive. And so you're not creating your own document. I think JJK created one where she has an escalation clause, an appraisal gap, and something for inspections. But if she doesn't, you can take a Word document and write it out. And on special agreements, say, see additional addendum or see attachment. You're not creating a legal document, you're just writing out what you couldn't put here.
Right.
You're writing out what could not fit in those 2 lines. All right. But you want to be very creative so that your offer stands out. And then line 652, if you're not directly or indirectly related to that person, then you will put NA. You have no interest. Let's say it's your aunt, then you will put your name there, that you have an interest. You don't have to say who or how you're related. Just have to say, I have an interest.
So when we put our name there, do we have to put the state as well?
Where on agent interest?
Yeah, so if I put my name dash Illinois, or do you don't have to put what
Just put
state?
your name, because this is an Illinois contract.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. We have to do it on our leases.
Oh, no, this is an Illinois contract. You know you license in Illinois, you better not be writing the contract.
Right. Well, yeah, but on the listing side,
Okay.
if they have another agent, what if their aunt lives in another state, but you're
Doesn't
helping
matter.
yourself?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. Then you get to this page and this is where you are responsible. Now, this is a document you are sending to the seller. So you are responsible for filling out all of page 12, not just the right side. You must fill out the left side too, all right? And all the information is available. In Realist, it has a seller's name. If they live there, it's the same address. The listing broker, you got the MLS sheet pulled up. Click on the agent's name and it goes to their page, copy and paste. It has the brokerage license number. Then the designated agent and their license number. What time, day and time do you want a response to your offer? Now, mind you, let's say I wanted a response by 6 p.m. today. If you haven't heard from them at 5:30, you need to be reaching out. Will I have a response by 6? Because if you're not gonna have by 6, you no longer have an offer at 6:01. Your offer dies at 6 o'clock, at 6:01. And reason think they can send over an amendment to extend maybe it was me. They can send over an amendment to extend the acceptance or the counteroffer. We don't have a contract. Amendments or amendments to the contract. At this point, we just still have an offer. There is no amendment to the offer, right? So don't let your acceptance date die. Pick up the phone or send a text. Hey, am I gonna have a response? If not, I need to send over a new page 12 because I don't want my offer dead. I want a response to my offer. So honoring dates and times is very important. And if you're the listing agent and you get an offer and only one side's filled out, send it back. It's their job. It is our job to fill out pay. We're sending this offer. So we don't, once your client has signed, it's illegal for somebody to go and add something into this contract. This is a legal document. But we have some lazy agents in the world out here. And then you want to put the title company's information. So even if you don't have the contact person's name, put the title company, put their address, and put the phone number. And I say that lender too has to contact the title company, so it's easier for them to look here and get a call and get an email for who I need to send it to. All right?
Yeah.
And then you just, the biggest thing is page 12 needs to be filled out. It is all of it. All right. So that's the contract to purchase. And then we have, let me see. I might have to go in. Site. Okay, so I did a sight unseen offer because I had gotten the properties were slim pickings. And we had got beat out on the property that they really wanted. And so now I'm sitting at the computer looking. And so one property came up and I was like, this is really nice property, really nice price. I'm checking the pictures. I'm like, okay, let's do a sight unseen. So we did a sight unseen. We sent the offer in. That agent, that seller decided, well, instead of going live in 2 days, let's just go live tomorrow. And there was over 30 showings on that house. We came in second. We didn't get it.
Oh,
And to the drawing board. So I'm sitting at about 10 o'clock at night again, looking through MLS. And it was on a Wednesday. And the listing was supposed to go live on that Friday. Like, okay, take a look at this property. And I was like, y'all trust me? They was like, yeah. I was like, let's do it again. So we did it again. We went sight unseen, 5,000 over. We did the 1,500 on inspections. And that Thursday he called me and I was like, Lord, please tell me he's not getting ready to go live today. He had gotten 2 more sight unseen offers. And he had a couple of questions for me and they accepted our offer. We closed today.
wow.
Sight unseen.
That's awesome.
But what the sight unseen allows you to do is, it says the buyer or buyers have chosen to submit an offer on 123 Main Street, sight unseen, with no contingency for release of contract for purposes other than those pertaining to inspections and finance. So it's saying, we're gonna put this offer in sight unseen, and even when we get an appointment to go and see it, other than inspections and financing, we're not terminating.
Okay.
And so this gives you sometimes an upper hand. And I had an agent ask me, well, why would you do sight unseen? I wouldn't do a sight unseen with somebody who I have not been out with and know what they're looking for. But I had been out with them and I know what they were looking for. And so I studied the pictures to make sure it had what they were looking for and the condition was good, and I trusted the agent because I worked with them before, that their pictures are not fake. They're what you see is what you're gonna see when you go to the house. And so we went under contract on that Thursday. We didn't see that house until that Monday. Yeah, and so it was everything. They were happy and everything,
That's awesome. I'm glad that worked.
So this is a tool that is available and is sight unseen, especially if your clients start to get frustrated. You don't want them to say, just forget it. So it's about being strategic for your client. So there is a document, sight unseen.
Nice.
Everybody doesn't use it, but they're gonna learn. I told one of our agents, she was asking me something about it. I was like, well, if you competing against me, you better get used to it. Because I'm gonna be using it. in the Keller Williams. Okay, so in the Keller file in Dotloop is the protect your family from lead. Send this to your clients, because we signed saying we giving it to them.
Mhm.
And then, the radon test guidelines. So just make that a part of what you send out when you send your stuff to your client. All right, any questions?
Oh, you prepared me really well for this. I feel comfortable with this.
Okay.
You did give me a few tips in there that I could use, definitely. Thank you.
Some tricks.
Yeah.
And I'm always available, so you can always call me and if
Not
you
early
need-
in the morning.
Girl, I was up at 7:30 this morning.
Oh.
Lord knows I sat there on that bed and it's like, is this life fake? And I was up yesterday at 7:30 so I could come play with some dogs.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So 2 days, 7:30 in the morning, but and I'm teaching, so I'm teaching at night. And I'm not falling asleep till like 12:30, 12:45, and then having to get up at 7:30. I cannot wait. But I got one more thing to do. I gotta go to a closing. Cause a company called one of our agents a super buyer agent, so I had to step in. So I'm gonna show up at that closing, so there's no issues. But baby, when I get home,
Is on.
I'm turning my phone on do not disturb. I'm putting my mask on and I'm going to bed. I am exhausted because I'm not a day. He knows it, so my body is wide awake doing.